So let's think about the nature of Jewish settlers that I was hearing about. And what does that vision say? This is where I was hearing about it for weeks before this whole thing happened. And it's the natural ability for Netanyahu. Oh man, we don't want to go there, do we? Netanyahu, his soul's on the line. Brenda's starting to hear from his soul. Now, when I get this busy in the future from the White House to Hollywood, I would say his soul is very strong, very unique in its vibration, right? That's very general. His holidays in the Supreme Court, right? He has his own court. It is not considered supreme, but it is their Supreme Court in essence. He's got them in their pockets. Okay, it's like there's a vision of we rise to the occasion of Jewish, it's like settlers. That's where a lot of people are here without realizing the bias that is inherent in our own minds when we go to one side or the other. So some people will say, well, this is going to be instantly against the Jewish settlers, right? Most people don't even know who they are or where they are coming from or who is kicking out who. Okay, so all this would be a session basically trying to reaffirm that his vision is very much of a arrogance. I know more than you about my own soul. I don't think my soul would say anything bad about who I am. He's rising in power in his mind still, even though his age is getting him up there in the vision of it. And he still struggles with that idea of loss. So he's feeling the loss of a lot of support. It's struggled in his mind. He's worried about whether or not he's going to be able to hold the attention of triage. Okay, so in his mind, he's worried about the triage energy that's starting to get sent out to the world, which is basically the pleas of help from the Palestinian children that are being destroyed by his bombs. A soul of a soul would never condemn the vision of a soul. However, they would not condone the killing of any soul in their vision. Somehow we rise above the vision of Jewish religion, right? To say it's okay to bomb people as long as it's in alignment with who we are as a people. Because they feel like they've been destroyed in their own, kind of like their own faith as well. So there's no favoritism going on in this woman's vision. And neither are there on the soul level, but to see the bloodied bodies of children being brought out of the record, it's like the record labels are coming through. We're going to go heavy. Most people don't want to know about that vision of what Netanyahu has going on in his mind, is it? It's just a simple statement that the man himself is starting to see how his own reputation is being it's like underserved. In his mind, he's feeling attacked by many, but he's still getting away with murder in the minds of most of those souls that are now crossed over. Okay, they were participants in his war against the Palestinians, who they themselves would say we participated in that battle as well. However, what we are working with are two different extremes. The extremes of war and hate are very strong in that settlement, okay? And in essence, those souls who feel like they need that place in order to reclaim their family value system must think that the family's vision is, if I don't live on a certain piece of land, then we are what? Left of center. So everyone's going to say Brenda's left of center. It is more like I'm all for what's right. I'm for soul. So I don't have any vision of what the soul would say. It's not about saying Palestinians or, Jewish Israelis are having any issues, right? His soul doesn't want to be condemned by anybody, but in essence, they will come through and say, we're going to align with those who have the money. That's where most people will go in this vision. Okay? They will tend to go with the people who are more supportive of their causes, more supportive of their angels. So it's almost like we don't have any condemnation for either side, but the vision of a ruler who is very much stressed in his mindset doesn't ever let go of that vision of we're going to conquer and win the settlements. Okay? His vision is, I will see that through. He has no interest in breaking agreements with the U.S., but that is indeed what is happening in the moment, believe it or not. And so those visions of love that we send to both sides and say, may there be peace in that valley, right? It's a Christian symbol of hope that others would want to start to say, let's broker the peace deal again. That should be what is on the table. However, when we have different ideas about who we're dealing with in the mind versus what they may say they want peace, but how many people are very much seeing who are those souls that indeed want peace? Do they want peace or do they want prosperity? You see, that's the nature of light. Okay? So it's not about saying anyone's bad again. So let's try to then readjust our vision and get to a different kind of topic, because we're going to hear about certain souls from a different point of view. It can get a little heavy on this side of the soul, right? There's no sides that we take when we go under the mode of guidance. It's more like, can we get a higher level understanding of where we are? So there could be some Jewish sisters in the world, right? Some people say, my family's over there struggling in their visions of love. We have a lot of love for those family trees that are still struggled in their mindset. Is it true that the vision of the place on the planet is of a vibration that will lift us up versus the visions of hatred that I embody while I am in those energetically sensitive souls, right? How many people know about that vision? I can go to the ends of the earth, feel the vibration of all souls, right? And the energy that comes through when I go through a church, I can hear those visions. What do you think we're going to hear when we go to Jerusalem? Do you think we're going to hear all the prayers? Do we hear the bombs? Do we hear the tragedies? See, that's more of the mediums, right? How many people say, oh God? What level of energy does a certain location hold? The master that walked upon the plane in that vision, how many of them know, what does that say? His vibration is still there creating. That's why they still want to be there. However, how many years of bombing has that overtaken that vibration of love? Not even close, right? Because everyone still keeps creating in that vision of my soul creates with love. I don't demean the vision of Jewish settlers by saying that vision of, at what point do we start to think that maybe our ideas about energy need to be adjusted a little bit? And that might be a big leap for a lot of souls to make about the vision of this land is my land, This land is your land. Okay? It's nobody's land. It's nobody's land. Nobody, in essence, gets to claim land, believe it or not, on a soul level. It's more like the energy that we create also creates the visions that we see before us. So if we're seeing strife in a certain area, we might feel that vision is full of bad energy, but it's not. It can be. It depends on what is happening in the moment and what level of understanding that you're looking at. You see, we have all sorts of spiritual alignment souls that would say, I can feel the energy depending on where I am on the planet. Would you want to have to be one of those people that travel the earth in order to get your messages? No way! We're done. We don't need to traverse the realm of the world to get our hearts handed to us anymore. So this idea that I have to be in a certain place in order to feel the beauty of Jesus or my soul or the Lord, we have to start thinking about who created those visions and why. And it's not to demean the visions because they're still in that moment creating it. And it's funny because in essence, I'm always like sending those messages back saying, please write your visions down on stone tablets or something because too much of it got lost in the shuffle with all the other visions. Oh man, if only we knew. So it's not about saying that Jesus isn't surrounding us in love. He always does. That's his vision. But there are so many other masters that have walked the plains of Jerusalem in their own ways. And it has nothing to do with that spot. So many people assume it's about the one locale. And yet in my heart, I'm over here. Am I not blessed for combining and being, a beautiful soul? Do I get to walk the plains of the earth and feel the vibration of the planet? Okay, so that's the nature of Jewish settlers. They're in that mode of this is my land. And in the end, the land is not theirs. And that's just the nature of it. It's been deemed to be of all. Okay, because if you're in that vision of Christ or of Jesus, right, it wouldn't be about his soul's vision. Would say, I needed that for my souls in that moment that he was in at that time, right? In that moment. It's not a linear vision. So right now he would say, I want to rise above the vision of ownership. Okay, because that's what that vision is. We own this land. No, you don't. But others did. And so we had to rise up out of that vision of ownership. And that's not something most people want to do here. It's a very high level understanding about the way in which we create the world. And we're not trying to make people feel bad because most people will go, that sucks. I don't want to even hear this because I have my own house, right? I'm in that same position, right? I know, right? Ask the Native Americans what their vision of land ownership is like, okay? We did a lot of things in the name of ownership. And that kind of vision gets people a little uncomfortable. They start to understand what would happen to our visions, if we had to go through that same process, which we should, in essence, most likely need to do. Okay, if you're in the vision of atonement, you would understand as a Christian, coming over and converting other souls into our souls would not be the way to go, right? That's their vision, is everyone has to be the same. But that was in that moment. Many of them took that vision to be, we all have to be the same in order to create this beautiful vision of heaven or hell. And then we rise into that vision, not even understanding that a lot of those souls had already risen into the beauty of their souls because they were already connected on a spiritual level beyond a lot of people's understanding. They believed in the visions that many are trying to reach already here in the spiritual mindsets. right? And even in the Catholic vision, right? The Catholic vision has this security aspect to it, and it's a beautiful one. Okay. It's more in alignment with I need to have that savior vision, and it's beautiful. It's like I need to be saved from who I am here because I don't trust myself enough to do the work that I need to do in this moment to get me to that higher level of understanding. Okay. And some will say that sounds derogatory. It's an honest assessment of where we are. How many of us know when we go into those churches, we're being asked, what sins did you commit? Right? What things did you do bad? And if you've got a lot of them on your list, doesn't that kind of tell you you're not living the life that you're supposed to be living according to someone else's, dictates? So that would be you going in your mind, I can't do this work. If I'm always able to find those things in my mind that someone is saying is bad, at least I've got someone that I can say, okay, well, now I put it out there, and now it's like it's freed me from that vision. Okay, so usually what a lot of those visions are ways to lift us up, to challenge us to do better, and in essence, if you can make it so you're not creating conflict in your mind, that's even better. Okay? Because that's really the big deal about soul embodiment is you want to try and make sure you don't create havoc in your own heart. It's your mind that you create the havoc. Your heart's just fine. So now, okay, so this was a message for a certain soul who I know, and it would be her soul, which would say, I love you. You need to get off the religion for the majority of the people that are going to start watching your show. It's like the vision of Jesus isn't of faith only in religion. It's very much in the spiritual paradigms as well. But there are many masters who walk that plane in alignment with who he was and is and will be. Okay? So let's not just talk faith. Okay? Now, let's invite the soul of soul in. That's what I often hear. Your soul of soul is the guidance system that says, you're the beautiful soul of love. You take your hands in mine, and we bless each other with the vision of who we are. I see you, you see me, we honor each other, we hold out our hands often, and we say thank you for showing me the love that you do. I'm not being demeaning in my mastery, am I? You see, this is the this is the nature of where people start to go when they combine with their own hearts and their own souls. They start to envision that beautiful vision of, I'm raising my vibration. Jonathan Winters was a celebrity at one point. He comes to me in his vision of celebrity and comedy and says, she's still hearing from the soul of Robin Williams as Mork and Mindy, because that was who she first saw him as, believe it or not. He did make his appearance on Happy Days at one point, but in essence it was through Mork and Mindy. And she was one of those souls that keeps hearing from those souls who had their struggles with suicide, and I will place a warning on this. Robin Williams would have said this lady's characterization of Jewish settlers was so strong in her mind that she felt like, I'm not getting the full deal, am I? Archangels are part of those visions of Catholicism. They're not for everybody, right? So that would be the same when I hear from the vision, right, of the Muslims, right? I've got to give everyone a shout out to their saviors or their holy men or whoever it is, okay? Now, in essence, His vision, his vision is he's a dork. That's what he says to himself. He's all, I'm such a dork. But he would say it in a way that made everyone laugh. And he's her guide for the comedic talent that she has in her mind, right? He was more of that, I'm just going to be so outlandish that I can't help but laugh myself sometimes. And that's where she is. But it's not on the outer realms. Like, she can't put him in there. His vision was, so many people were so saddened by my passing, and I'm still inviting those visions of love, of comedy into my heart. We need to lighten our loads, and laughter is the best medicine for so many. But in essence, people assume that his struggles were all about depression. And he's sitting there thinking, I can't even imagine someone like this woman going through the vision she goes through. She takes off the mask and says, I'm done. Right? I'm done with those visions of suicide. I hear about it so much. But in essence, they're all those beautiful visions. And this is to let people know they are not in those realms that others project them into. Okay, they're beautiful. They have their struggles when they cross often, but it is not painless, but it's not like what people would think. It's painless in the majority of the ways. For them, it's a crossing, and it depends on their belief system. I didn't create any hell either, is where he was kind of coming from. He's like, I was a joker in the mindset. I used to laugh at the people that would cross their hearts at me, because they would say he was a nut job or that he was outlandish. He says outlandish, but there are people who would say he was a nut job in the beginning because he was so out there in his mindset and his portrayal. He's a good guy. He had his struggles, but he's like, I'm free of that vision. And so when you go into the guidance mode, you don't want to leave your soul. And that's where some people would say the channeling can be a little bit difficult for some people like me who feel the beauty of hearts all the time. And my soul, as me in this vision, sometimes struggles. But when I hear from those visions of comedic genius, then what does that say? They're still having a good time. Some of that stuff has been taken off. They don't portray themselves in the same way. It's not like they're just there and then they're gone. They have those essences that they bring through of who they were. That's the soul level understanding. And his is very much of I vibrate in the beauty of laughter. I vibrate in the beauty of majesty. He claims he loves her visions because she holds herself in these beautiful visions that are so high. She gets told them by her soul, so that lets her know where she's at. Sometimes she gets the lower level visions and she has to deal with that vision. And in her mind, she's like, sometimes it's ridiculous. Others would say she was crazy unless she brought through the proof of his vision. Jonathan Winters is right there with him, creating beautiful, like, magic together. They still kind of get off on their energy together, playing off each other's energy. Okay. And that's kind of what I do with one of my friends that I had to break free. We were playing off each other's energy, and he's saying, just laugh. And that's the nature of where a lot of us could really do a better job in this vision of like the earthly plane. Is we kind of forget that a lot of what we take so serious is really kind of it's like a joke. Now, we're not talking about devastation, or whatnot. But for him, he said, I joked about a lot of the pain. And then I was able to lift myself out of it for the most part. He says, I struggled a lot with the pain in my mind. My body freed me of that. I was joked about a lot of my hair and what he's like, I was a hairy man. And he said, I got a lot of flack from my loves for that vision. I was unconditionally loved by he's like my spouse. And he's saying spouse, his spouse. And so his love is remarried in his mind, or is in that kind of relationship. And he would bring through that vision as an honoring of all souls. Okay, some people create with that vision of, I can't now have a new partner because my spouse is on the other side, and I realize that they're still there in that it's not, they do not want you to deny yourself the beauty of who you are here. It doesn't work that way. Some people will. It depends. It depends on each soul. He's saying, I want my honey bunch to have fun. Everybody wants to have their laughter and tears in this plane. But Brenda is the one that will do both at the same time. And that's the vision that she keeps hearing. It's like some of these episodes are a little too serious. She used to go to that plane of delight and laughter before a session. And that's what I tried to do today. I tried to be light in my heart. But you know what? I had visions of depression being lobbed at me from their hearts. And that's their souls trying to say, that's what it feels like for somebody else that I know. My vision is, at that point, in my mind, now I realize I should have threw down the, Cartman drama triangle card and said, I am not your savior. Right? If you have an issue with depression or sadness, ask for your soul session. I will give it to you. I don't care who you are. At this point, if you're in that mode of, I'm that sad that I can't handle the vision of love, your soul will say, I'm giving you their vision because I need you to reach out to them and tell them that they are forgiven, or that I need their forgiveness. Okay, so that's the nature of one of those episodes about forgiveness. And Brenda is in the mode of, I don't ever ask anybody for forgiveness because that's on them to figure out when that time or place would be, if ever. That's not for me to determine. If someone says they need my forgiveness, that's a whole nother story. I forgive people very fast because I understand the nature of where most people go. However, it does not mean that I will reunite with them and continue to create havoc in my mind. Okay? Because I know those dynamics that I'm creating with. Self-awareness 101. If you know you're going to create havoc with someone, you either need to adjust your vision or you need to say, it's time we end this. Now, his vision is very much in that, just laugh a little bit more next time. He says he wants to come back to Channel for the Soul, but it's going to be in a different time slot. It's going to be more in the morning again, because it's a better vision for all of us. We're easier on the eyes in the morning, right? How many people are tired in the evening? There's a lot of late night TV hosts that would say, I stay up for those shows that make me happy, right? That's why the late night shows tend to have a lot of funny people, because we want to end the day on a happy note. Okay? And he would give a skit right now if he could, but Brenda's not going to embody that vision and start doing a dance. She does in her own way, just out of nowhere. It's her joy of dance and goofing off. But it is downplayed because of the nature of her heart and her collision with other souls on the soul level who are trying to break her free of the vision of Jewish settlers. But it's so hard, you guys, sometimes when I know there are problems that are trying to come through, and I want people to understand it is not a judgment against anybody. Okay? It is an honest attempt at us learning to understand what it is we're creating. And even though those souls are clear on the other side of the world, we're all here creating with them. So let's hold them all in our hearts. And let's all figure out a beautiful way to then say, enough's enough. Now let's go to my heart and figure out ways that I can enjoy my beautiful vision, however it needs to be brought through. Okay? So I want to thank you for this. He's going to align with a different sort of idea at some point. He says, I'm not the jokester that I used to be. It's a little bit different now. And he wants to be held in the highest of esteem for breaking through that vision of seriousness. He kind of guides her in that vision of, I love you, but you're too serious right now. Sometimes that's the nature. I will get messages from the soul of soul who can bring me visions of certain celebrities and what they would do in certain situations. Okay, John Bon Jovi's still on the line saying, I want another shot too. Okay, but it's not going to be tonight. It's going to be at a different time slot. 7 p.m. is not the time for me or my family. So that's my friend. So I have another friend who's saying, I can't do 7 p.m. It's too late. And that's the nature of it. Sometimes there are people on, and sometimes they watch afterwards. Again, reminding everyone, this gets broadcast live to 3 different places. So it's not for everybody. Some of those heavy hitters will come through at some point, and sometimes we have those beautiful expressions of love for the lighter. It's like the lighten our load kind of visions versus the heavenly values visions. Okay? A lot of our lives are not about religion. They're about enjoying the beauty of who we are in the moment. So with that, I'm going to say thank you and have a beautiful, beautiful evening. Good night.